On the left-hand side, it's Brennan DeCandio playing Sultai mid-range, taking on Jeffrey Scott, Mono Green Tron. Interesting look from Brennan DeCandio here.
Yes, Sultai mid-range.
Yeah, this is a spicy one. 4 Drown in the Lock, 3 Assassin's Trophy, only 3 Okos, playing it a little safe here. 4 Tarmogoyf, 4 Snapcaster Mage.
Probably couldn't afford the 4th Oko.
They're expensive, I'll give them that. Interesting looking choice here. I like a lot of what's going on in Brennan's deck. Taking on Mono Green Tron this round. Really, as far as interaction goes here, it's kind of Assassin's Trophy or bust. At least in our game ones.
Yeah, well, I think the discard is super important in the early turns.
Sure.
The Force of Negation is a very effective card. The problem for Brennan here is even if he has an edge in the early and mid game, he doesn't pressure the opponent very well if he doesn't come down with a Tarmogoyf.
Right.
You know, there's just not a whole lot of redundant threats here.
2 Field of Ruin in the main deck for Brennan, I'll say that as well. And when we get to post-board games, there's actually a pretty good set of options. Unmoored Ego, Damping Sphere, Disdainful Stroke. We'll get to all that when the time comes. But I don't know. Usually the bane of strategies like Sultai mid-range or even Jund comes to mind is something like Mono Green Tron. But I like some of Brennan's setup here. Although, when you see this on the other side of the table, you can't be super enthused. That Thoughtseize was able to grab a Karn Liberated, but Jeffrey Scott is going to go into his turn 3 ready to go with Tron unless Brennan can find some means of interaction.
And I like this, just crack my map on my own turn. Like, there are random stifle effects in the format. You're always going to complete your Tron here.
Right.
Your opponent's discard can't take your Tron out of your hand.
Yeah, seems safe.
So, yeah. Well,
Ooh, see that rip?
That was a sweet rip.
How about Assassin's Trophy right off the top? Not bad. Brennan going to pass the turn. I have a feeling we're going to see some action on the draw step here. There we go. Assassin's Trophy on your Urza's Tower. Of course, that's going to resolve. And Jeffrey Scott going to go searching for Basic Forest. What's going on over on Jeffrey Scott's side? Anything interesting as far as a Mono Green Tron deck goes? I see a few spicy fun ofs in the main deck here.
Ooh, we're working with a Beast Within.
Yeah.
And a Gyre Reach Sanitarium, which is it's a card we've seen occasionally move in and out of these decks.
Hearing from Tannen Grace that he worked with Brennan on this deck a bit. He's not pleased that Brennan draws the Tron matchup here. I don't know, Tannen. It seems like you have some options in the sideboard. I'm sure you're not a huge favorite, but let's see if Brennan can find a way. I think a second Assassin's Trophy in hand, possibly.
Might have been a Drown in the Lock. It's hard to tell.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree with your read.
Ooh,
no third land, though.
And I think he has a Thought Scour that he did not cast.
Here's Drown in the Lock on
You
Ancient
cannot
Stirrings.
cast that with a Forest.
That's not going to happen. Let's back that up.
Yeah, so Brennan thought that he had multiple blue-black sources here.
Right. And that makes not casting that Thought Scour really bad.
Yeah.
And it also makes this Urza's Tower coming off the top of the deck really bad. Jeffrey Scott going to go ahead and play that. And here is Karn Liberated. Get rid of your land. Brennan going to try and mount some offense with a Snapcaster Mage, but we've all been down this road.
The Ambush Viper offense. Yeah, this is the battle where they just take the card out of your hand every turn, and you just keep trying to attack it every turn.
Never catch up. Not to mention anything else that Jeffrey might want to do at this juncture.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much the misstep mattered there from Brennan, but obviously not ideal. Karn going to go ahead and plus. Back up to a comfy 5 loyalty. Follow up Thragtusk. This card is just good against Sultai midrange.
Oh, mama. And with that basic forest in play, Brennan still can't cast, his Drown in the Lock.
Right. main deck Thragtusk becoming a thing rapidly.
Yeah, a lot of them.
In these mono green decks.
3 Tusk, 3 Worm Coil Engine.
Yep.
And it makes sense because a lot of people, showing up with Burn because they think it's a good line to take against the Wurza decks, which we're quickly finding out is not the best way to fight the Wurza decks that are full of Oko now.
Right. Times have changed.
Welcome to Modern.
It's going to be Thought Scour targeting Jeffrey Scott, trying to get those Drown in the Locks online, but you need mana to do that. I do see a Field of Ruin off the top, so maybe we break up Tron for a little bit, but you look at the battlefield.
Yeah, it's too late.
Damage has already been done. Could maybe Oko. This might be the first time in Oko's existence it's not good. The rare Oko that doesn't do anything.
I mean, Oko's not great when it's staring down much larger planeswalkers.
That is true. Planeswalkers and enchantments, about the only blind spots for Oko. Although Planeswalkers, it doesn't even feel fair to say that because it can just make a bunch of pressure in most instances. It's such a silly Magic card.
Yeah, and at 3 mana, it comes down before most opposing Planeswalkers.
Right. Jeff, we're going to go ahead and activate that Oblivion Stone. What's the counter called from Oblivion Stone? Divinity counter?
Is it a fate counter?
Fate counter.
Yeah.
You are correct,
Yeah.
yes. It's going to hop onto Karn. Does crack that field, taking out the 3rd Tron piece. So we're back to no Tron for Jeffrey Scott.
Yeah, and he's on 4 basic forests, so I played green-black for a long time in Modern, a year ago, 2 years ago kind of a thing. And I played tons of Field of Ruin and tons of Assassin Trophies.
Right.
And for a while, some of the Tron decks only had 2 basics in them. And it felt pretty good when they only had 2 basics.
Yep.
Once they're up to 4, it gets hard to stay ahead of all of their lands. You keep blowing up Tron pieces, but then they just have 7 mana available to them in the mid-game anyway.
Yeah, looks like we floated mana from that tower to go ahead and activate Oblivion Stone. Follow up Chromatic Star, follow up Expedition Map. Guess what? Tron's online again.
Just like that.
Nobody saw that coming. So 2 towers been destroyed this game. Jeffrey Scott still only taking very temporary breaks from having Tron online.
Well, even if another land gets blown up, you'll have 6 lands in play.
Just start hard casting your spells at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. The windows are small up against this Tron deck. You need to do things quickly. Gonna go ahead and crack Chromatic Star. Green mana floating.
Oof, yeah, Brennan's had enough. Can't blame him there.
That means Jeffrey Scott takes down game 1 against Brennan DeCandio. Like I said, I think things are getting a little bit better for Brennan when we go to sideboards here. Why don't we start over on Brennan's side? You see 2 Collective Brutality, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Noxious Grasp, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Unmoored Ego, 2 Veil of Summer, and a Force of Negation. What are you doing if you're over on Brennan's side?
But let's bring it all in.
Yeah.
I mean,
most of these cards seem very good.
Not all of it, but I mean, the Disdainful Strokes against the expensive spells are good. The Damping Spheres are great. I actually like the Surgical Extractions.
Same. Me too.
You blow up a Tron piece, you Surgical Extraction it. Obviously, they don't have Tron for the rest of the game.
Yep.
The Unmoored Egos are very strong, especially in conjunction with your other discard spells where you get to take a peek at their hand first. And that way you get an informed decision about what you want to take with Unmoored Egos. And I think the Force of Negation is even good enough to bring in.
I agree with you. I mean, a lot of it is that there's just a bunch of bad cards in Brennan's main deck that he wants to get out 100%. And even if these things aren't at their best, something like Surgical Extraction, it's not going to be a huge part of your plan, but it's better than other options you have. You can potentially close your opponent out of Tron for the entire game. And there's still a game to be played at that point, but at least you've made some headway. You've slowed down the pace a little bit so you can start doing your thing. Meanwhile, Over on Jeffrey Scott's side, we are working with the Karn board, so there's a lot of one-ofs here. As far as spells that might be coming in, you're looking at 3 Nature's Claim, 2 Veil of Summer. Has to play that guessing game a little bit with Nature's Claim. Is there going to be Damping Sphere? We'll see if he gets that one right, but Veil of Summer is a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, Veil of Summer is an easy include here when your opponent shows up with the blue-black deck. Yeah, you're going to want to play that one. The Nature Claims, I think... So you either play it safe and you bring it in and then potentially side it out for game 3 if you don't think there's any good targets.
Sure.
Or you do the exact opposite where you're like, I won't bring it in because I don't think he has anything. And when I get beat by something, then game 3, I'm going to have the card available. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the rest of the sideboard comprised of those one-of Karn targets. Nothing really spicy here. The usual suspects hanging out. And I don't see anything that's particularly well-suited for this matchup. There's no KOs here. It's just going to be all situational grabs for Jeffrey Scott, I believe.
And I think with the way the format is right now, the strategy is to bring in the Nature's Claims, have them available to you. I think there's enough other Tron-style decks running around. There's enough of the Amulet Titan decks running around that you can expect your opponents to have sideboard cards against big mana strategies.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And that's one of the reasons why when I talk to the Amulet players, they were off the deck this weekend. They just say the number of Damping Spheres, Blood Moons, they're on the up. A lot more of those cards floating around, and they're not comfortable bringing that deck to play in that kind of environment. So we'll see if Jeffrey Scott can make the right moves here. I will tell you that both Jeffrey and Brennan looking super comfortable down there in those Carnox gaming chairs. You know I love these Carnox gaming chairs. They've got our back, and you can save 10% at checkout when you visit carnox.com/SCG.
It's a comfortable chair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the biggest struggle is staying awake while I do this. When I sit in the Carnox gaming chair, I start leaning back more and more as the day goes on. Of course, rising my chair the entire time, so I always have dominance over Craig and sit just a little bit taller in the booth.
Yeah, I wish there weren't as many points of articulation on the chairs. The up and down particularly gets me in a bind.
See, I'm gonna reveal some of my strategy to the viewers now. You got wise to my strategy of always moving you up and down. So what I've started doing actually is adjusting the lean in your chair. Because if you lean back far enough, you're still going to be lower than in the booth. So I just make it a little bit easier for you to recline when you're over there.
You have a lot of strategies that I need to defend myself
think carefully
from.
about this, Craig. It's very important that I sit taller in the booth. Looks like we're dealing with a mulligan over on Brennan's side, and I believe a keep on Jeffrey's side. Inquisition of Kozilek going to start things off for Brennan and DeCandio. Are you surprised at all to see that still in the deck?
No, not at all. I think it's super important in this type of matchup for Brennan to have some early disruption followed up by some pressure. If these games drag on, I just don't see... even with all of his sideboard cards, I think it's still a rough matchup for Brennan.
Right.
So I like, this is almost an ideal hand for him. He mulliganed into turn 1 discard spell. He's going to have the turn 2 Tarmogoyf for some pressure, and then a little control to back that up.
Yeah, looks pretty nice, honestly. And now Jeffrey Scott not guaranteed Tron. Always a chance, though. You know how Tron is.
Brennan has all of his colors as well, which is good.
Right. Yeah, much better than the last game. There is that Tarmogoyf you mentioned. It's going to come down as a 2-3 for the time being. Blast Zone, the draw for Jeffrey Scott. Going to go ahead and crack that Chromatic Sphere. Finds Basic Forest. That was not what we were looking for. Going to play a Power Plant. And just passes the turn. These are the games that Brennan can steal, 100%. And there you see double Force of Negation rolled up. Even if that Tron piece comes off the top, there is some counterplay available.
Yeah, and Brennan, I would guess, is thinking about if he wants to Snapcaster Mage Inquisition here, which I like it. It's proactive. It gets a little more pressure onto the board. And then he's just going to sit behind these 2 Force of Negations. Hopefully he's able to hardcast each one so he gets maximum value out of them.
Right.
And just attack the opponent down.
Sounds decent to me. You're going to want to get an attack in first. Preserve sorcery. Make sure Tarmogoyf's doing 3 damage. Now we'll see if he likes that line that you suggested. No, just going to go ahead and pass. Jeffery Scott draws Blast Zone for the turn.
So the reason I would have gone with that line is just because last turn Jeffery did not have a way to find a complete Tron. And so the chances of him this turn having natural Tron are very slim. Brennan has already looked at his hand on turn 1 with the discard spell. So that was kind of the window where I wanted to take advantage of that.
I'll say this too, if you're not going to make that play, I like just playing Snapcaster Mage at the end of turn there.
Oh, the other, so we didn't have full information about Scott's hand. It's also possible that Brennan just knew that there was no low drops. Why would I cast this Inquisition Kozilek when I'm not going to be able to hit anything?
Right.
But yeah, sometimes the Snapcaster Mage as Ambush Viper is as good as it's going to get.
Yeah. Could see this being one of those situations. Gonna grab that Thragtusk out of Jeffrey Scott's hand. Makes sense to me. And now Tarmogoyf on the beatdown plan. Blast Zone at the ready. Jeffrey Scott just going to hand the turn back to Brennan. I guess that's the reason not to play the Snapcaster Mage as well. You know that Blast Zone is out there.
Yep.
You're going to be losing your Tarmogoyf at some point.
That's fair.
Yep. Going to take another hit from the Tarmogoyf here. Now a 4-5. Jeffrey falls to 10, and Brennan just going to pass the turn back. I like it. Playing very patiently. Tron piece for Jeffrey Scott, not the one he was looking for, though. Is going to be able to play Karn, the Great Creator, this turn, but we know Brennan at the ready. Force of Negation. Hard cast.
Yeah, but Jeffrey's okay with this, you know, just 1-for-1 back and forth in the mid-range while he doesn't have Tron. Like, he's very happy with this type of situation.
Yeah, I think Brennan is super incentivized to get that Snapcaster Mage onto the battlefield as soon as he can. He agrees.
All right, we're going to do it.
Thoughtseize time. Take that Worm Coil Engine, absolutely.
Yeah, and this worked out really well for Brennan, being patient with the Snapcaster Mage.
Agreed.
Better line than what I was saying he should do.
Yeah, I think his line was better than both of ours. Another Karn off the top for Jeffrey Scott. Can we leverage that? Can play Star plus Karn on Star. Here's Sphere. There is Karn, the Great Creator. And we are going to plus on Sphere.
Nice.
Playing a little defense now. This is a promising setup for Jeffrey. As far as Brennan's hand, we know one Force of Negation. Do we know the other card right now? Don't think we do. Assuming it's not blue. Assassin's Trophy. Okay. More answers available for Brennan. Draws another land, so now can Assassin's Trophy and hold up Force. Do you have to go after Karn here?
Yeah, so I think you do.
I think so.
It gets really awkward if your opponent just tutors up a lot of cards. If he has a creature in his sideboard that he can tutor up that's particularly good, like a Worm Coil Engine,
right,
you're in trouble. Even a Walking Ballista is just very good.
Yeah, Brennan now at 9 life. Pretty precarious life total. So going to pass the turn. Jeffrey Scott draws, and on draw step. There's some danger there, right? Waiting until draw step.
You mean with Veil of Summer being in the format? Sure.
I think the gains there are pretty marginal.
Yeah, the reason you wait till the draw step is because you hope your opponent draws one of their forests.
Right.
And then there's less in their deck for them to find as the game goes on.
I'm inclined to play around the Veil there instead.
But yeah, I agree with you where that is a slim situation. And you need to make the safer play because if the Karn stays on the board, you're in a world of hurt.
Right. Jeffery going to go grab a forest.
Yeah, and the game's not over yet, but watching the way that this game has played out just demonstrates what a nightmare matchup this is for Brennan, right? Where he had that kind of optimal start. He's turn 1, discard spell, break up your Tron. Turn 2, I have the pressure. I've got double Force of Negation. I got another discard spell. And it still feels like, he's the one in the bad spot.
Yeah. And he has Force of Negation for the first Ancient Stirrings. The second one, though, is going to resolve. And there's the Tron piece. Happily going to take that is Jeffery Scott. Is that last card in hand a payoff? I don't think it is.
I don't think it is, but he's also very close to getting the Sanitarium online.
Right. He's done a great job playing Sloan Study. Has Jeffery Scott. I want to note no copies of Once Upon a Time in Jeffery Scott's list. I'm so happy that the Tron players came to this realization. I don't think the card is good there. I think it's incredible in Amulet.
It is absurd in Amulet.
Mm-hmm.
I think for some players the verdict is still out on whether or not you should be playing it in Tron.
Okay. DeCandio going to send Thought Scour at Jeffery Scott, gets rid of 2 Urza's Towers, and Scott goes ahead and draws Expedition Map land, possibly? That could bring Sanitarium online. There you see Gyro Reach Sanitarium. Each player drawing a card, then discarding a card.
Oh, man, and Brennan. 2 good hits there.
Yeah, Jace Snapcaster. Okay. Discards Jace. Here's Ugin. Oh, boy. 3 damage to that Snapcaster. Expedition Map. We do know Brennan with an answer available. Snapcaster into Assassin's Trophy.
Yeah, no choice here.
Yep. It's go time. Tight little game here. Brennan at 9, Jeffery at 8.
And notable for Jeffery is that he has very few of those utility lands in his deck. Mm-hmm. He's already gone through his 1 Blast Zone. The Gyro Reach Sanitarium's already in play. His last card, that is the utility slot, is a Ghost Quarter.
Right.
And it's just not great in this situation.
No, not accomplishing all that much.
But if you want to play a lot of basics, he's got the 4 basic forests. This is the way you have to do it.
Right. It is basically getting access to 2 draw steps, though, every turn with Gyro Reach Sanitarium.
Yep.
Is going to activate it. It does the same for Brennan. We can't discount that. But I think at this point, it favors Jeffery to make this exchange for sure.
Yeah, the cards that he finds with it are just so much more high impact.
Didn't find anything here, though. Passes the turn back. Thought Scour on Jeffery. There goes Karn. There goes Ancient Stirrings. Brennan's going to take a draw. Takes the turn back. Jeffery now at 6. Jeffery falls to 4. Snapcaster Mage in the red zone.
Doing work.
It's like Brennan headed back to the graveyard. That points to Surgical Extraction for me.
Potentially Surgical Extraction.
It is funny that Drowning the Lock has gotten to the point where it's a hard counter to every card in the Tron deck. I don't know how often that happens. Here's Unmoored Ego from Brennan. We'll figure out exactly what this is naming.
Yeah, this is a tough spot. We don't know Brennan's hand, but I like 7-drop Karn.
That is, in fact, the name from Brennan. Karn Liberated. Gonna go searching for that. Finds 3 copies. 4 copies.
Yep.
And now what do we have left for offense if we're Jeffery?
I think he's still doing all right. He still has
Thragtusk.
Thragtusk, Worm Coil, Little Karn tutoring up different pieces, which might not sound like a whole lot of hits, but so many of the cards in this deck are just cantrips where he's going to churn through his deck real fast.
Many looks, yeah. Takes a draw, finds Green Spell. I think that's a Nature's Claim. Not what you were looking for there. And I'm not sure what that card is.
Oh, Brennan's other card was a Goyf.
Yeah, and that is going to be enough.
Yeah, just enough disruption. Wow.
Tight one for Brennan.
Yeah, nicely navigated. And you can see how he needs every last resource to eke out these wins.
Right. Yeah, didn't really leverage the haymakers in that game. It wasn't like Unmoored Ego shut you off Tron, Field of Ruin, Surgical Extraction, you never get Tron again. Like, Tron was on the battlefield for much of that game for Jeffery. Just really not able to convert.
Yeah.
All the payoffs stripped away by Thoughtseize. Well played from Brennan.
A fun game.
Well, if you want to know about the hottest evolutions in all of these modern decks, not only what's going on with Karn, Amulet Titan, you know, I'm going to talk about Amulet Titan a lot. Apparently, I'll also talk about Living End from time to time, according to this here advertisement.
Back from the dead.
Back from the dead is that Living End. When can we change this slide? I have had it with this newsletter slide. Not only does it have the picture of me from like 6 years ago.
I like the picture.
Okay.
You know, I picture a more hippie Brian Gottlieb running around in like his Birkenstocks or something.
Yeah, I don't know. That's when I was working at a big New York City law firm and like wearing formal clothes to work every day. That was as anti-hippie as I could possibly be in my life.
Well, obviously, I'm just looking at a bust of you here.
Right.
But
you're not getting all the content.
That's just the impression that I get from the facial hair that's got going on there.
Maybe it was a simpler time, Craig. I was more laid back, more chill, didn't have as much stress in my life.
Working at the law firm? Wow.
Yeah, that doesn't track. Well, you're pretty stressful to work with, I'll be honest, Craig. You really push all my buttons.
I am a handful.
That is the truth. If you want to see that SCG newsletter, make sure you sign up. Get that in your email on a weekly basis. Always hot tips coming through on the newsletter. Let you know what's going on with all of SCG's OP, what's up on the website.
Is that why you're always messing with my chair? Like that's a little form of revenge for you?
Yeah, I got to get a little something back.
Yeah. Because I wake up every morning and I'm like, man,
how can I ruin Brian's life today?
What can I do today? Not ruin it, but just make it a little more difficult.
Okay, that's a good goal.
Yeah.
I feel like you share that goal with a lot of the world. It seems like they really enjoy that task in general.
I have somehow found a wonderful woman who will be around me every day of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, I better not screw that up, Brian.
It's true. It's very true.
Because I might not ever find another one.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Wow.
No, not on your behalf.
Thanks, man. Wow.
On my behalf. Knowing what clowns we are, it's unbelievable that we were able to get kind, wonderful, supporting women who are willing to spend their lives with us.
Ugh, this is a stinker on Brennan's side.
Yeah, don't love it. Jeffery on a mulligan here. Actually putting back a Veil of Summer. Makes sense, though. You need cards that actually do something. Oh, this is a mulligan to 6 for Brennan as well.
Yeah, yep.
It feels priced into keeping this.
I think you send this one back.
You go to 5? I mean, this deck doesn't mulligan all that well, quite frankly. But you could look for one of your haymakers. Always an option.
Well, the problem to me is the other deck's just going to have... That's a good draw.
Rip Assassin's Trophy.
Yeah, they're just going to have turn 3 Tron just so consistently.
Oh, you are correct, but we found perfects on the top of our deck. Not going to be punished for the keep. Jeffrey Scott, though, does have a second Expedition map, going to be able to reestablish Tron even after eating an Assassin's Trophy here. Brennan's going to need to keep the good draws coming if he's going to hang in this game.
Yeah, like you said, an Unmoored Ego, you know, you have to keep him off of Tron long enough and then hit him with the Unmoored Ego and just lock him out of that portion of his deck.
Well, Thought Scour is the draw, not Unmoored Ego, but I have a feeling Brennan not going to want to spend mana here Let's have access to that Assassin's Trophy for sure.
For sure.
Passes the turn to Jeffery. Gonna go ahead, crack map. This time I'm okay with going to the draw step. No green mana available.
Yep.
It's just optimized here.
And for the less experienced players at home, you always blow up
Urza's Tower.
the tower, yes, because when they put Tron back together, you want them to have more 2-mana lands than 3-mana lands.
Oh, he just ripped Urza's Tower.
Of course he did.
Got him. Just how we drew it up. Not going to have Tron online this turn, but it's coming back fast, and that means Brennan really needs to find something on his end.
Oh, and he just shows it to him right away, too.
Doesn't even make him sweat.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I also had this expedition map, too, by the way. Cute Assassin's Trophy, though. Turn is headed back to Brennan. Draws a Tarmogoyf. Now has to decide if he wants to deploy Tarmogoyf. Deploy Oko. I would assume Oko is the play here. Still has a blue card to pitch to that Force of Negation.
Yep.
In the form of Thought Scour. And it is Oko. Gonna tick up, make some food. And the turn heads back to Jeffrey Scott, who will crack this expedition map.
Man, so we have our Invitational in a couple weeks.
Yes.
The winner of the Invitational gets to have a token of themselves made.
Yes. Food.
It's going to be food, right?
All everyone's talking about food.
It's going to be food.
Food.
And you can have different fun things with food, where
Right.
it's just the person eating their favorite food if they
Yes.
want it to be.
Incredible token opportunity.
Yeah, I feel like it's so obvious, but it's still just easily the best choice.
Yeah. So not the hugest payoff for Jeffrey Scott here. It's only an Oblivion Stone. That is, of course, going to still eat a Force of Negation, though. Is there a follow-up from Jeffrey? Looks like Chromatic Sphere. Gonna crack immediately. Flow to green. Finds green spell of some sort. I think it's Nature's Claim.
Is that potentially the Beast Within artwork?
It could be a Beast Within, yeah. Oh, since it's targeting that Oko, I'm assuming it is.
One way or the other, Oko gets a 3/3.
Right. Oh dear, says Oko as he heads to the graveyard. Greg knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, man.
My least favorite Oko voiceover. So condescending. He knows he's the best card in Standard, just wants to rub it in your face. Tarmogoyf, land. Some offense starting to be generated over on Jeffrey's side, but here's the brick wall. Sure wish you had that Oko now.
Yeah, this is...
Worm Coil Engine going to blunt any aggression from Brennan, and now needs to find some answers to that card. I see a land in hand, possibly, yeah, 2 lands in hand. That's not the answer we were looking for.
And Jeffrey's got the pocket pair.
Oh, Worm Coil's rolled up?
Yeah.
Not bad. That means this Worm Coil can just get to work on the beatdown plan. Snap off this trade pretty happily.
Yeah, when I was playing green-black a lot, Worm Coil was one of the most frustrating cards to try to slog your way through.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, the first one, you could do it with a combination of some Fatal Pushes and Liliana of the Veil, etc. But the second one was always just so backbreaking.
Mm-hmm. And it's a 5/6 even. More insulting. Can't even trade the
Goyf, yeah.
Brennan might get a little equity here from Jeffery not knowing the list. Nope, it's worm coil
No,
time.
just we're jamming.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just makes sense. How hard can you really get punished for playing your second worm coil engine? Brennan gonna crack the food.
I like that shrug where it's just like,
Pad that life total a little bit. Draws Assassin's Trophy, but the damage has been done by these worm coil engines for the most part.
Oh, it's such an uphill battle.
Both going to head into the red zone. One meets an Assassin's Trophy. Oh, he drew the veil.
Oh, how
Counter,
absurd.
draw a card, jump block.
Oh, man.
Jeffery at 342 life now.
Yeah.
Brennan going to fall to 8. Does not look good for Brennan DeCandio.
Yeah, and you can see in the matchup, like, Brennan just can't let a single spell resolve. Every spell is just so backbreaking for him.
Never able to find those haymakers, never able to shut Jeffery off of Tron very early in the game, as I think was critical on his side. Well, here's a Snapcaster Mage from Brennan. Gonna cast a Thought Scour.
Yeah.
We're trying to find something.
It's funny because he has Assassin's Trophy in his graveyard.
Right, it's just not good enough.
Which, yeah, would be one of his best cards for the situation. And, yeah, not nearly good enough.
Here's Tireless Tracker,
All these cards are so good,
but not here.
and they're just so bad
Just
against Worm Coil
completely
Engine.
invalidated by
Yeah.
Worm Coil Engine. How about Karn, the Great Creator? Go
Oh.
get Michael Synth Lattice. Is that any good?
Yeah.
And that's going to get the handshake from Brennan, and Jeffery Scott with mono green Tron takes down Brennan DeCandio on Sultai midrange 2-1. You got to feel a little bit for Brennan because you